I have a challenge today. I'm going to challenge you to do something different. And join me. For those of you that are feeling a little risky, a little crazy, take your shoes off. Take your shoes off. And if you feel so inspired, even take your socks off. I know for some that might be a little bit out of control, but today's talk is called Take Your Shoes Off. And I want to share with you an experience that I had that really impacted me quite profoundly, actually, a few weeks ago, where I took a little walk through the woods. So you see, it was the last week of the school that I've been attending called the Vitalist School, which is an 8-month deep immersion program. And in it, you study all kinds of amazing techniques and ways that you can go deeper within yourself. It was a pretty profound experience, and it's something that my wife put together with her partner, Micah, and they have built this really incredible school. And I attended it, and our last time together was a few weeks ago. And in that exercise, what happens is you walk through the woods, and you think to yourself, well, okay, Mike, so what's the big deal? You walk through the woods, so what? I do that all the time. Well, this one is a little bit different, because what happens is, what makes it so powerful is that you actually get blindfolded. And then what they do is they take these ropes that you hold on to, and the ropes could be really low, or they might be really high. You don't know. You have no idea what's happening. You just show up for the experience, and they put you out blindfolded. You grab on to the ropes, and you take a walk. And there are several twists and turns within that path. Several. It could be really easy at times. It could be flat and enjoyable. And within that quick, everything changes. And you could be climbing over a branch. You could be crawling underneath something. You might have to do everything in between. There's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of variances in it, but you really have no idea. And the other thing about this experience is, that makes it so unique, is there's other people that are doing it at the same time that you are doing it. So there's this thing in the back of your mind, because you can hear what's going on, and you're going, well, am I moving too fast? Am I moving too slow? What do I need to do? And you have no idea, because you can't see anything. So it's an amazing experience going through this walk. So what happened is the group started to walk out to where the exercise was going to start. I was standing there, and I happened to look down at somebody who wasn't wearing their shoes. And I said to myself, hey, you might want to go back and put your shoes on, because we're going to be walking through the woods here in a moment, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable for you. And that person looked at me and said, no, I don't think so. This is exactly the way I want to do this exercise. And I looked at him and I said, well, why would you want to do that? And he looked at me and smiled and said, well, why don't you take your shoes off and find out? And it was one of those moments where you just sit there and go, oh God, why did he have to say that? Why? Couldn't I just go for this walk on my own and just do my own thing? Oh no. No. That is not what Spirit had in plan for me that day at all, right? But it was interesting to watch my ego kick in and start saying, well, wait a minute, what if you do that? What's going to happen? Oh my God, you're gonna step on something. You're gonna hurt your feet. You're gonna fall down. And on and on and on. I'm gonna hurt myself. And my ego started painting all these horrible, terrible things that were gonna happen to me if I took off my shoes. So there was me sitting there going like, hey, you might want to think about doing something else. And then the ego side of me is going, no, don't do that. Don't do it, right? And yet, in the calmness of all of it, I just kept hearing this voice that said, Mike, go take your shoes off. You got to go take your shoes off. that's what we're requiring you to do. And so, reluctantly, I sat there and I took my shoes off, thinking to myself, oh, dear God, what have I done now? Right? So we walk to the starting point of this exercise. And one by one, we were blindfolded and told to wait to be guided to the beginning of the course. So we're all standing around pretty quiet, not saying a whole bunch. And I kept sitting there in my own thoughts thinking, my God, what did I just do? What did I just do? You had your shoes on. You could have just left your shoes on. And it's so funny to watch this battle going on between my ego and safety and protection and not knowing. Excuse me. Right? And so this battle's going on back and forth. And all of a sudden, the shame and the guilt and everything started showing up. And I hear all of a sudden my inner critic shows up and was loud and proud. It was in charge. Anybody been there? Anybody been there? Oh, yeah. So after a few minutes of standing there, I finally felt this hand tap me on my shoulder and say, come on, it's time to go. And so we started walking to the beginning of the course. And as I started walking, it was so interesting. I remember this. I remember feeling like, wow, grass under my feet. How amazingly beautiful and soft it is. It felt so good. I was just like, wow, this feels good. I don't know if I do this very much. And I could feel, it literally felt like me, like I started to connect almost with Mother Earth, if you will. Like there was like this thing, I'm like, wow, this is different. I haven't done this in a while, right? I said, wow. And all of a sudden I started feeling like this little kid. Like I was really happy. Like this little part of me was going, oh my God, this is amazing. And all I did was took off my shoes. That's all I had to do. And so I was sitting there smiling, and I just kind of giggled a little bit. And I said, well, this is kind of interesting, So after a minute or so, we're standing there, and I take a few more steps, and all of a sudden I started to feel some leaves underneath my feet. And I could tell that I was on the edge of the woods and going into the woods. And all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, I went from excitement, joy, happiness, to fear. Why did I do this? Oh my God, right? So the person that was guiding me suddenly stopped. He grabbed my hands and he placed them on the rope. And he said, you're at the beginning of the course. Good luck with your journey. And then silence. And I was like, okay, here we go. We're going to do this course. So here I stood at the beginning of this walk through the woods, all by myself, barefoot, blindfolded, and not having a clue what I had just gotten myself into. Not a clue, right? So the first few steps I take slow, and I hear the leaves crunching underneath my feet, and I'm thinking like, okay, I got this. We're okay. Everything's okay. Yeah, right. And then all of a sudden, I step on a branch. Ouch! That kind of hurt. Oh no! And all of a sudden, guess what starts happening? Yanta, 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 yanta. You shouldn't have done this. Why did you do this? Why didn't you just leave your shoes on? Why are you doing this? You're so stupid. All you had to do was listen to me, and we would have been just fine if you would have done that. But no, you have to go take your shoes off because you think it's such a great idea. And on, and on, and on. Right? So that's what starts happening. And for a few moments, I sat there, not moving and listening to this voice in my head go on and on and on. Guilt, blame, shame, everything. In a couple of steps, oh my God, right? But then all of a sudden, it happened. As I was standing there and I sat there, all of a sudden I heard another voice that showed up. What is that? I thought to myself. Only this voice had a different tone to it. It was much calmer. It was much more relaxed. much more at peace, and it spoke with compassion, and it spoke with understanding, but with strength and with knowing. But I had to listen. I could tell something was trying to come through, but I had to really, really listen. But it was undeniable that I was trying to be told something. And as I listened, the words that came through were slow down, Mike. Slow down. All you need to do is slow down. And it took a moment for me to know what was going on. It took a moment, what was being said. But I kept hearing over and over again, slow down, Mike. All you need to do is slow down. So I repeated it to myself a few times. Slow down, you're okay, slow down. And all of a sudden, there was this peace that came to me. And the answer was so simple. All I needed to do was slow down. That was it. Slow down. And so I started walking again. Only this time, instead of the thought that I'm going to try and get through this thing as quickly as I can, I had a different thought. What if you actually slowed down enough? And what if you actually paid attention to what was going on around you? What if you did those few things? Every time you took a step, that you did it consciously, that you were present, that you didn't rush through it. What would happen if you were to do that instead of trying to walk quickly and just get through this thing? Could that possibly change your experience? What I noticed is with every single step I took, if I was present, in other words, if I wouldn't get ahead of myself, if I wouldn't listen to the other voices that were around me, if I slowed down as my foot hit the ground slowly, regardless of what was happening underneath my foot, I was able to adjust it. In other words, I was given the information to react accordingly so that I would be okay. As long as I was present, as long as I slowed down, I could make whatever adjustments I needed to make. And that I was safe. As long as I slowed down, with every single step was present, I was able to make whatever adjustments I needed to make, and I could be safe, right? So if I stepped on the dirt, I could place my foot on the dirt, I'm okay. And I could move forward easily, comfortably. But if I put my foot on a branch or a rock or something else that was out there, it just informed me, slow down. You can't go slamming your foot on the ground when you're going to step on a rock. If you do, that will cause pain and you will hurt yourself. You can't continue to walk fast because all of a sudden there may be a stump out there that you could run into, or a branch that might catch you right there if you're not careful. You have to slow down. You got to get a feel for what's going on because you have no idea what you're walking into. None. Remember, you're blindfolded. And yet, underneath all of that, I just kept hearing this voice, Mike, slow down, slow down. And if I did, with every step that I took, what I noticed was that I knew what to do. So let me get this right. I slow down. I'm present in every single moment. I'm paying attention to everything that's around me. And if I do that, I'll be given whatever information that I need, regardless of what's going on, to do whatever I need to do to keep myself safe. So one step at a time, I just kept moving forward. And yes, I hit everything. And when I mean hit, I mean walked into everything. But I did it slowly. I was present. I was conscious. So if something came in my path and it was big and ugly, then I slowed down even more. At some points, I even had to stop because I wasn't sure what to do. But I stopped. instead of walking right into something, which I could have done and probably would have done, right? As I started this process, I started to notice a couple of things were changing. The first thing I noticed is that I wasn't in a rush anymore. I just wasn't. I wasn't worried about when this thing was going to be over. I wasn't worried about hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I wasn't worried about all the voices I could hear. I wasn't worried about anything. I just wasn't in a rush. I was actually enjoying the experience. What a concept, right? I also noticed I wasn't trying to get through anything. So in other words, this idea of this exercise, I just wasn't trying to get through it. Hurry, 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 you got to get through it. And I switched from a hurry up mindset, and actually I became more of a relaxed mindset. It allowed me to relax, breathe, be present, feel what was underneath my feet, feel what was going on, knowing, sensing, all of this information that was coming into me that I simply did not have access to unless I slowed down that much. And instead of moving forward with the fear of what's going to happen next, instead, I switched into a genuine curiosity with every single step that I took. What was coming next, but not in a fearful way, in a good way. Like, oh my God, what is next? What is the next gift? And it didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter if it was a branch. It didn't matter if it was a rock. It didn't matter if it was sand or more grass or leaves. I treated them all the same because it was all the same. Only difference was it was my experience. That's the only thing that was different. So I didn't judge the experiences that were coming up and showing up for me. None of them. Slowing down, being present. Right? So I started to get excited about my next step instead of being in fear because I knew no matter what, that's all I had to do. Be present, and you would be given the information to know exactly what you needed to do. That's all you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about 5 minutes down the road, 10 minutes down the road, a year down. You don't have to, Mike. You just literally need to take one more step, do it slowly, wait until your foot hits the ground, and then you'll know exactly what you need to do. You'll know exactly what you'll need to do. And it didn't mean there weren't moments out there where I had to completely stop. It didn't. I just had to be careful and keep reminding myself over and over and over. And be present and enjoy one single step at a time. No fear. No guilt, no shame. Interesting. So I continued my walk until finally I felt this hand touch the back of my shoulder, and I was told that I finished the walk and I could take my blindfold off, right? And as I started to grab the blindfold, there was a part of me that didn't want to. I didn't want to. That what I just experienced was so powerful that I just really wanted to be in the moment for a while. Even if I couldn't see what was going on, it just didn't really matter to me. And although this process only took 10 or 15 minutes, I'm guessing, I really don't know, the lesson and the impact it's had on me has been invaluable. I mean, truly one of my greatest life lessons, because what I realized looking back upon this exercise, that it really wasn't about a walk in the woods. What it really represented was the way I was living my life. And the whole point of the exercise is to teach you, how are you living your life? And I had to sit there for a minute, and I had to think about that. And I've been processing it ever since in terms of the deeper lessons that were given to me that day by taking that simple walk. And it's taught me so much about me. And it didn't have anything to do with shoes or no shoes. That was irrelevant. It had nothing to do with me walking through the woods. It simply came down to me and the way that I walk through life, right? And since then, I've been trying to put this thing together about this walk in the woods and what I've come up with and what I realized for me. And first of all, what I realized is that I spent a lot of time simply wanting to hurry through things, just to be done with it, so I get to check the box. Hey, I did that. Look at all I've done. Look at all my accomplishments. Isn't that great? But what I realized is I don't care anymore. That's not the most important thing to me anymore. It's not. You see, I was doing a lot of things simply for the sake of doing them, instead of doing things because I wanted to be doing them. I got caught up in the trap of do, instead of be, and be. I realized most of the time that I'm simply moving too fast. I just am. And because of it, I couldn't really enjoy myself. That I was going through life at such a pace that I rarely slowed down enough to just appreciate it. Smell the roses, as the saying goes, right? I also realized that I wasn't even aware that what I was going through was actually hurting me. The way I was living my life was actually hurting me because I wasn't taking enough time to connect with myself, connect to everything that was going around me, which was what? Life, energy, God. Everything that I wanted to experience was right there in a single moment. And yet, when you've got an attitude of hurrying and going and trying to get through stuff, you miss all of it. You miss all of it. I also realized that just by slowing down a little bit, just a little bit, that Spirit was there all along. That voice that just told me, slow down, Mike, slow down. And the guidance, the love, and every single thing that I needed in the moment was absolutely there. And the truth is, it's always been there. It's always been there. Always has been there. So, when I finished the walk, and I've thought about this for a little while, there's a couple little things that I've made a new commitment to. And I would challenge you to consider thinking about that, or I would challenge you to maybe consider today when you get home, take those shoes off and go take a walk in the woods. Because my belief is there might be a thing or two those woods could teach you, that walk could teach you. Even if you can't do it blindfolded and walking a ropes course, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Go out in the woods, get your feet on the ground, connect with Mother Earth. It will change your life, especially if you do it on a regular basis. And so the decisions I've made were a couple of things I want to share with you in closing, and that is I've decided that I'm going to take my shoes off more, right? I've decided that I'm going to start slowing down more because life is going way too fast. And the only way that I'm going to be able to live it in the way that I want to live it, what's right for Mike, which is not the same that's right for you or anybody else, but what's right for me, is that I need to slow down in order to be able to enjoy it, to see the magic that's happening in every single moment. And if I'm going too fast, I'm not going to see it, right? I also decided that I'm going to trust myself more. I'm going to trust life more. I'm going to trust God more and the process, because I believe we are all going through an awakening. We are all going through a process. We are all doing that. Yes, they all look different. I tell you that every single week you come here, that it looks differently for every single one of us, and it's all perfect. In other words, it doesn't need to look like and be like somebody else. In fact, I encourage you to not make it look like anybody else's way of doing it. Make it look like your way of doing it, and trust yourself. I also understood and realized that moving forward, to simply know that no matter what's going on in life, no matter what it looks like, that all I need to do is know that whatever shows up, I'm going to be guided in terms of what it is that I need to do. And it doesn't matter what that may be. It doesn't matter. And that maybe for the first time in my life, I could actually start to relax a little bit instead of this go, 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 go thing, right? And instead of living out of fear, what would happen is I can instead choose to live my life in an excited curiosity. I don't know about you, but when I tell that to myself, I just get, that kid in me is coming out again. Live my life in excited curiosity? I kind of like that, as opposed to, let's go, right? I decided to live presently knowing everything is really going to be okay. Understanding that no matter what, that I matter, that I do matter. I mattered enough that day to where something told me exactly what I needed to do. That's not by mistake. That's the way that we are designed when we slow down enough to realize that. I understand and I choose to live my life like I'm actually cared for. Like there is this thing called God, and God really does love and care for me. Spirit loves and cares for me, whatever you want to call it. That I have every single thing that I need in every single moment. I'm never without, ever without. That I'm not alone, ever. I'm not alone. That I'm not forgotten. And that I'm loved by God. And the way I do this every single day is a gentle reminder to myself, and I'm going to encourage you to consider doing it as well, is just every single day, even if it's only for a minute, seriously, just take your shoes off. And remember this moment right here, right now, and just understand what you've got within you. The same thing that they've talked about since the beginning of time, that we're all connected to this beautiful thing called God, that this thing loves you, cares for you. You're not guilty. There is no shame. There is no blame. None. And the more that we can trust ourselves, and the more that we can trust the process, and the more that we can push our own boundaries when it comes to our own spiritual growth and development, that these doors will open that you never imagined possible. The people that will come into your life, the circumstances that will happen, will become like magic, only instead of thinking of it as magic, you'll think of it as an everyday occurrence. That is the promise that's been made to us throughout the history of humankind. That's really it. That's really what we get to do. That's really what our potential is when we decide to play this little game and dive in. And ultimately, take your shoes off. I love you. You're incredible. You all are doing a great job. Keep up the work. You are needed now more than ever. Just shine the light that you are. It doesn't need to be anything special. Just be who you are. Connect. Take your shoes off. Touch Mother Earth. And the whole world will start to change. It already is. It already is. You are amazing. My blessings to you. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing. It's really incredible to watch it. Have an awesome, awesome, awesome day. Blessings.